Do you believe in karma, that these things that you put out into the world as energy comes back later?
100%. There's a checks and balance system around the world. We don't know how it operates, but it is there.
What's scarier, having a critical warning light at 30,000 feet or watching your investment portfolio crater on Wall Street when the Fed rules against you?
If you don't react properly, it's basically game over. It goes back to taking risks, but not taking random risks, and always have a way out. You have to go through a few 100 million incarnations before you get a shot to be human. So this is the chance to be conscious and actually be able to do something, take this chance.
I want to go back to something on legacy. 10 years or so, maybe less, after you started your career at Citi, you set up at Caltech a prize honoring your grandfather by rewarding students for groundbreaking research. And I just love to understand, why did you do it? And what did your grandfather teach you that still resonates today?
Yeah, so actually, the first one that you're referring to is for my maternal uncle, my great uncle, the person who encouraged me to apply to Caltech when I was 14,
Ah,
15
okay.
years old. So he's a big influence because I still remember walking up and down in our little town in Bikaner in my little desert town and him coming to visit and saying, you have a lot of talent, you're very skilled, and, kind of giving me that imagination to say that, and say, you should go and work with Feynman at Caltech. So when I finally got a little bit of money and I had a job on Wall Street, one of the first things I did, other than taking flying lessons, I basically started this little fellowship called the DS Kotari. Now I think it is 25th year. And what's most fulfilling about it is that the money in the beginning wasn't very large. I mean, it was maybe $5,000 to $3,000. But um, that amount of bump, because I got that same bump when I was a student there, some unknown person who didn't know me gave me, this $2,000 that made it possible for me to stay there in the summer and not have to do something, waste time, basically, right? So I believe the small amounts can make a huge difference if they're directed in the right way. And the great proof of this is that now that grant, that fellowship that I gave in my grandfather's, it's his 25th year. And I look at the 25 recipients who have gotten them. I mean, these guys, and girls, ladies, they are legendary scientists around the world. I mean, these are alums of this little grant that they got when they were seniors. And now they are basically transforming science and technology around the world. So we're going to have a little alumni gathering of prize recipients, of that DS Kotari Prize.
That is so cool. Do you believe in karma, that these things that you put out into the world as energy comes back later?
100%. I don't know how it happens. And as a scientist, I cannot ascribe a direct causality to it, but it's not just the good stuff, but it's also the bad stuff. And I have seen it again. I was brought up in India where there's a big belief in doing right and, the karma count, as people call it. But I have seen it firsthand. I have seen it, and I tell my team and my family, what goes around comes around. Be very careful. Yeah, we don't know how, but it always catches up. So if you do something, you're going to pay for it, positive or negative. So I 100% believe that there's a checks and balance system around the world. We don't know how it operates, but it is there for sure.
Wow. Well, you mentioned flying. You've logged over 5,000 flight hours piloting jets, helicopters. You're even certified to fly business jets
Yep.
solo, which is totally insane. So, what's scarier, having a critical warning light at 30,000 feet or watching your investment portfolio crater on Wall Street when the Fed rules against you?
I think that the problem, I would have to say that the light, but again, in both cases, because one is an existential thing, right? I mean, sure, your portfolio creators, maybe you go to zero in your net wealth, but you're still alive and you can still, dig yourself back up. Actually, could be a fun challenge, by the way. But out there, if something goes in that little tin can that you don't react to properly, it's basically game over, right? But the fortunate part of this is that the aviation system, for those who don't know it, is incredibly heavily regulated. And before you are allowed to be in that situation, you are quite well trained, and there's a lot of redundancy, and there's a lot of time to do the right things. So it is scary, of course, but I have a couple of events which have happened with family in the plane where my training and my reaction um, has come in. It's basically even is instantaneous on what needs to get done and the right thing. I think that's again goes back to taking risks, but not taking random risks, taking measured, controlled risks, and always being on the side of training yourself to have a way out, so to speak.
Veneer, you and your wife, Rebecca, an accomplished lawyer, graduated Chapman Law, Dean's Fellow, two extremely driven people under the same roof. What's it like for your kids?
Look, I'm sure, I probably impose more pressure that, implicitly, maybe not explicitly, but my wife, if you met her, no,
Yeah.
she wouldn't even impose it. It's a little balancing act, right? You don't want them to feel like they're obligated to do something very specific to please you, obviously, but they should also at the same time not feel like they are obligated or not obligated to do anything, right? I mean, it's a very fine line. And having a little bit of the desire to be somebody in your own right, right? So the thing we basically tell our children is we don't really care what you do as long as whatever you do is deep down what you believe and you do it with all your heart and your effort, and we are going to support you, right? But that's still, I'm sure that sets a lot of pressure because that is asking in one form or another for excellence in something. And unfortunately, I think it's pretty hard to take that out of my DNA at this point because I do believe, this is, I was thinking about the other day, actually this morning, kind of just a side anecdote. I'm right now very, got involved in learning about oceanography because of my son was doing a competition. And I was reading this one section on organisms of the deep ocean. And there's like 250,000 different species. And apparently there's this one species, one worm that's like down at 9,000 feet. And this worm somehow transforms the heat that's coming from the vents from the earth into stuff that substitutes for oxygen. There's not much oxygen down there to create energy effectively. So I'm thinking about this and going, nature is so unbelievable that all this stuff has gotten invented. And I bet you, I'm Indian, so I kind of technically should be believing in reincarnation. Indian scriptures tell you have to go through, a few 100 million incarnations before you get a shot to be human. And so that worm is probably something that I'm going to end up being, maybe in my 10,000th next incarnation. So this is the chance. Like I get this chance to be conscious and actually be able to do something. And I think that's the kind of philosophy I'm trying to somehow impart to my children also is that, this is, you just got a chance to do something for yourself. Take this chance and,
Good for
be.
you. And that, I have three daughters and a son, and only my 8-year-old daughter, who just graduated from college, knew that she wanted to be an actress. So she sings, dances. She wants to be on Broadway or in film. She's in Amsterdam taking a Shakespearean acting kit class. But my other three really didn't know what they wanted to be. What about yours? Like, where are they? Do any of your kids really know what direction they're heading in yet?
Yeah, so my oldest son, he graduated from Columbia, both undergraduate and masters. He did actually go to Caltech for a summer internship and in the physics lab, working in a lab where if you touch this chemical, it would take your finger off. And then he enjoyed it. But then he told me when he was in 12th grade, he said, Dad, I like physics, but I don't think I'm going to be a physicist. So he went to Columbia and he graduated in the fine arts, especially in screenwriting. And he's actually here in LA right now. He just finished his master's. He got some big award at Columbia for his screenplay, so he's being honored and he's meeting and networking and all that. So he knows for him it's set. He wants to be in the entertainment, in the TV writing business. So that's my oldest one. Our middle one is 50. He wants to go to do science. I think he wants to go to either Caltech or MIT. He really enjoys it. He's very good at it. He's also getting his pilot's license. But I think at this point, it's this formative years, but in the next 3 years, he'll probably really figure out what he wants to do. He might actually want to go into the Air Force, which is why
Right.
the other day I reached out
Yeah,
to
yeah.
you and I said, what's the process for the Air Force Academy? So he's thinking about it, and we have friends like you, and then a bunch of F-35 and F-16 pilots who he absolutely loves hanging out with and having sorties with on his video games. But so that's him, my middle one, and our youngest one is just completely precocious, brilliant, just gets hundreds on everything. But she wouldn't tell you if you put it on screws on what she would wants to be. She's very smart, but she's also keeping all of her options open.
And
So
t and tell us about you had, kind of dreams at some point, and I
yeah,
know you've dabbled in screenwriting yourself, so
sure.
tell us about that.
Yeah, so yeah, screenwriting, and actually I wanted also to be a fighter pilot. Maybe my son is kind of following in that. My dad talked me out of it, but about I think maybe 15 years or so, we did a project in Kenya where we took a bunch of soccer equipment for these girls in the village who were very good but didn't have any equipment. So we took a lot of footage. When we came back, we found that we had a lot of good video footage, but we had no story. So I have like 20 hours of great video, but no story. So I thought, I got to learn how to make like a 15-minute storyline. So I got into screenwriting, and I found that I absolutely loved it, telling stories. And I know, Charlie, you're a writer and Michael is a writer, and the 3-act structure, the 17-minute point, and the arc. And it was like, wow, I had no idea that this is how have been manipulated by the movie industry in terms of storytelling. So I got really into it. I did that. And then in the latest iteration, it basically took music version. So I just finished a advanced diploma in songwriting at Berklee School of Music, where storytelling via music, which is actually to me even more incredible because of the compactness of it. Yeah.
And do you play any instruments?
Yeah, I mean, I play some instruments badly, bass. I think I'm reasonably good at, but this day and age, again, they call it the democratization of musicianship. All you need to know is basic theory and need to play one instrument. And that if you can play either the keyboard or the guitar, because there's transcribing software right on my iPad that I can make it
Yeah.
just as long as I know the right chords and right melody and right notes, I can literally play any instrument that I want. So that
Well,
barrier to making good music has gone down quite significantly.